Hey guys, so for today's video, I have my guest star Jared with me today. Him and I are going to talk about our top five favorite video games of all time, and the reasoning for that is because Jared and I have grown up playing a lot of video games. I went to his house, he went to my house, so always plays games. So we've been growing up, we've been playing a lot of games with each other. So for this video, we really want to share kind of our top five games as of 2012, August 2012 specifically, what our current favorite games are of all time. Like, what are the top five games we always go back to, always love, no matter how good the graphics get, the systems get. These are kind of the top five games we always come back to throughout the course of our lives. So, Jared, I'm going to let you talk about your top one pick for favorite games.
My first pick is Ape Escape for the PlayStation 1, and it's just the unique control scheme. It uses two analog sticks, and it's a unique way. It required the DualShock controller, which was the new release at the time. And the plot takes itself so seriously, but it's just so silly.
So one of my favorite games too, Jared, is I had Super Mario Galaxy. It's for the Nintendo Wii system, and I guess what made that game so excellent is the fact that if you liked the original Super Mario Bros. For the NES, if you like Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo, or even if you like Super Mario 64 or even Super Mario Sunshine for the GameCube, it really took the best of each Mario game and put it into one. And not only did it put them into one, it was able to make each and every level in the game feel unique from each other. It was a different experience, a good experience, and it really brought back the feeling of the Mario games that we've been missing for so long when that game came out. So Super Mario Galaxy was kind of the savior of the series, and that's one of my favorite games of all time. Now Jared's going to share his second favorite.
Yeah, my second game on the list is Final Fantasy IX, and I know that in certain places it's not as held in high regard compared to the other Final Fantasy games on the PS2, namely 7. But it was really my introduction to the Final Fantasy series, and that's the one I really got into.
And then the next game on my list here is the Simpsons arcade game, and I believe it was also ported to the PC at one point. I think it's kind of hard to find though. But anyway, I have always played the actual arcade game whenever I'm at an arcade. I would go to the Chula Vista Hotel in the Dells of Wisconsin, and my brother and I would just play this game for hours on end. It was just so cool because you could play as Bart, Maggie, not Maggie. You could play as Bart, Marge, Lisa, or Homer, and your mission was to save Maggie from Mr. Burns. And what was so cool about this game is if you played the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game, which is another game I'm going to bring up here soon, it was able to get that feeling to the game. It was able to get the feeling of The Simpsons, and it was able to add its own unique characteristics of gameplay. And it was just a fun game that will suck you in the whole time you play it. If you have a lot of quarters on you when you play the game, you're just going to play this game for hours on end. It's just, even when you beat the game, you're always going to come back to it because it's just so fun. And it's just a really fun beat-em-up arcade game that I think, even to this day, it holds up.
I think I remember playing that, and another thing that I thought was unique that you didn't mention was the team-up attacks.
Yep, you could do team-up attacks in this game, too.
That was interesting. So my third game is Lunar 2, Eternal Blue for the PlayStation. It's a port from the Saturn version, but there are differences, like all ports. And just the plot and the storyline, I mean, it's cliche, but for some reason it just works. And despite all the remakes of Lunar 1 they've come out with, I really wish they'd remake Lunar 2.
And so the next game on my list, guys, is Mario Kart Double Dash. And this is a game that Jared and I would always play. And what made this game so unique is kind of like what the title suggests. You could have two people on the same kart at once. And what was kind of unique is there was options where one person could drive and the other person could throw items, and you can switch whenever you wanted to. And you can unlock characters, you can unlock courses, and just at the time, and even to this day, even compared to the other Mario Kart games that even came out after this one, it just really holds up. It's just a lot of fun. I think as far as the courses referencing previous Mario games, it just was very accurate. It felt like something that belonged without saying, well, we'll just make a course based off this place and hopefully people like it. It actually felt like it belonged in the game. So that's another huge favorite racing game on my list.
I like that game too. It was always fun. It's especially fun when you do just two people on one kart, because then you have to time your switches.
Yep.
Anyway, the fourth game on my list is Burnout 3, which was I played it on the PlayStation 2, but it also was released on the Xbox And for a racing game, it's a different kind of racing game where you're not trying to just street realistic racing game. You can make your opponents crash, and watching time slow down whenever you would cause a crash was pretty fun. And then there's crash mode, where you just fly into busy intersections and make explosions, and it kind of appeals to the Michael Bay sensibilities in all of us.
Yeah, and I guess what was kind of cool about the Burnout games is it was really the first racing game that wasn't a racing game. It was truly about the crashes. It was the game where you wanted to purposely get into an accident of some kind. And I guess that was so unique about it is before I played the Burnout games, it was one of those things where it's just like, okay, you got to race to the finish line. Well, in this game, you got to make sure you crash as much as you can. Make sure the crash is like a lot of money. And that's what was kind of unique about it. Is it was such a unique type of game to that genre that it really just kind of sticks with you over time. So I think that's what's kind of cool about it.
Compared to the tuner racers that were popular at the time, like Need for Speed Underground,
and even those were more racing based than crash
Need for Speed Underground, or compare that to your Gran Turismo, which was a lot of precision driving on famous tracks.
And then the last game I have on my list, you guys, is Marvel Superheroes War of the Gems. I just had a blast playing this game, and I wish I actually had a copy of it because I don't, unfortunately. But what's so cool about it is you can play as Captain America, Iron Man, Spider-Man, Hulk, just a ton of Marvel heroes in this game. And you get to play through the War of the Gems comic series all on the Super Nintendo. If you played X-Men Mutant Apocalypse for the Super Nintendo, it has the same type of gameplay. And just the fact that you get to choose any character you want and any mission you want. It is just a fun game. You actually get to fight Marvel villains from the comics. And even to this day, like if you've seen the Avengers and everything, there's some characters in here that you're going to recognize, specifically Thanos, who's been rumored to be in Avengers 2 coming out soon. And it's just a fun game. It's just so much fun to play. You'll play it for hours on end. It's very much in the style of like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game, which I don't think I've shared that.
Yeah, you skipped
okay.
that.
Okay, so when Jared shares his game, I'm going to share this one next. But anyway, it has kind of that beat-em-up style of gameplay. And it's just a lot of fun, especially if you're a Marvel comic fan.
Yeah, the last game on my list is Jak 2 for the PlayStation 2, the sequel to Jak and Daxter that didn't really follow up on what the original was.
It was a much darker look.
Yeah, it was much darker, and it was certainly a lot harder, which, the original game targeted for kids, and then suddenly you come into where you get guns. I think it was one of the first games I got for the PS2, and I liked it a lot more than Jak 3, which just seemed a little too oddball. Jak 2 seemed a little more focused.
I guess one thing Jak 2 had that I guess it didn't so much bother me in Jak 3, it's just that it didn't feel as complete as Jak 2 did, is I kind of like how Jak 2 kind of avoided the whole desert racing thing. It's because to me that was kind of cheesy back when that came out, but I felt Jak 2 was more if you did kind of like Grand Theft Auto. If you did something bad in the city, you get in trouble for it. It was one of those things where if you based on how you treat Jak, that's how the game's going to treat you back in return. So I guess that's what's kind of unique about it is your actions all make the gameplay possible. So that's kind of unique too.
Yeah, on that desert racing thing, I just felt that Jak 3 tried to do too much and wasn't as good as it could have been.
And then, like I said, the game I skipped on my list here was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game, the original, which is also ported to the NES at one point. And kind of like the Simpsons arcade game, and even like Marvel Superheroes, like I was just sharing, it really felt like it belonged with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles TV series. You can play as all the turtles. If you played the arcade version, they would actually comment the same way they would comment on the show. So that was kind of a bonus you would have if you played the arcade version over the NES version. You would fight actual villains from the show. You would go through places that were shown in the show. And it was just so fun, so unique. I think a lot of Chuck E. Cheese's around the U.S. had this game in their store, and that's kind of what brought people in gaming-wise. It's just a ton of fun, and even to this day, I think it holds up a lot. So any other comments, Jared? Or
I think I'm good.
Okay. So we hope you enjoyed this video, you guys, and I might have Jared back here for another video soon, but we hope you enjoyed this video, and we hope to see you next time.
Yeah.